So you're thinking about moving to Florida, specifically South Florida, whether that's for a change of jobs or a new life for your family or retirement or even just a new change of scenery. Whatever the reason may be, it's a big move and you may be questioning, where should I live? Where do I even begin to search? Is it affordable? Does this even make sense for me? So for this video, I took some of the most commonly asked questions, whether it was from comments or in the Zoom calls or anything that's come across my desk over the last few years, and I've compiled them into this guide, this ultimate guide to moving to South Florida. And so probably one of the main things that I get asked, especially for the people who have absolutely no idea about the lay of the land or anything down here, is where should I live? And I do want to just first preface this by saying that South Florida consists of Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County, with the three major metropolitan areas of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach. Now, when you're deciding where to live, it's really important to ask yourself, what's important to you? What kind of lifestyle are you looking to live? Are you going to be commuting to work? Are you looking to be near a certain school? Do you want to be near the beach? Do you want to be on the beach? Do you want to be near water? Maybe you want to live in an HOA community in an established older area, or maybe you want to live in a non-HOA community out in the suburbs. Or maybe you just want to get away from it all and be out near the Everglades where you can just go play with some alligators or something, I don't know. Or what I find commonly, maybe you want to be kind of right in the middle of all three major metros. So without getting too in the weeds on this topic, because I have covered this in previous videos before and I can speak probably an hour on just where you should live, I'm going to go ahead and link a video that I just recently did, kind of breaking down the whole area and the lifestyle, and you can go check that out. And so once you somewhat have that narrowed down, maybe not to the exact city or the exact neighborhood, but once you kind of have the general area narrowed down to where you want to live, the next thing that you probably want to know is what's affordable. Is there anything affordable for me here? And affordable is a subjective term, or what can I afford, or it's subjective. But knowing this will definitely help you further choose where to live. And so one thing to know about South Florida is that there's really no dividing lines anywhere. So you can be in one area that has $10 million homes, and then you cross the street and you're in a neighborhood with $800,000 homes. And then you go a little bit further and there's 500,000, and then you go a couple blocks to the left and there's $1 million homes. So everything is very, territorial, or it's very spotty out here. But just to give you an idea, the median sales price right now in South Florida is about $500,000, just under, about $490,000. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer. When a lot of you reach out to me and you hear a number like $500,000, you get this visual in your head of, the house that you want at $500,000 because maybe you've seen it online or you saw it somewhere else. And the challenge that we often run into is that price and expectations, sometimes they just don't line up. Now, can you get a nice home for $500,000 out here? Of course you can, but it may not be in the area that you want it to be. For example, we had some clients with a $500,000 budget, a little bit above like $500,000 to $600,000 budget. And, through watching my videos, they really wanted to be in East Fort Lauderdale. When I say East Fort Lauderdale, I'm talking about east of Federal Highway. You may not know what that is just yet, but it's a highly desirable area. Nothing exists in that area for $500,000. Nothing exists for really less than $700,000. That's mostly $1 million homes there. So when doing your research on the different areas and the price points, it is important to note, what areas are kind of what the general price is in certain areas. Like I mentioned, east of US 1 or Federal Highway is going to be much more expensive than west, and then the further west you go, the more affordable it gets. So just to touch on this $500,000 price point that we're talking about, that's going to be something that, the house you have in your head, the nice home, maybe, a little outdated but not too bad, built in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, you're going to be further out in the suburbs for something like that. Now, I can't go over an entire map in this video and show you every single pocket and what homes cost there, but I do always like to give this rule of thumb just so people aren't too discouraged. And the one thing that I say is the house that you have in your mind for 500,000, just expect it to be more like 700,000. Now, I'm not saying it will be, but if you think it's going to be 500, just expect it to be a little bit higher, more like 700. And 700,000, if we're talking in terms of the cities like Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Miami, the closer you get to the water, that's kind of the minimum baseline of what you're going to be spending. Of course, unless you're looking for something that needs a lot of work. And so while 500,000 may be the medium price point, you still can get homes for less than that, but just expect the majority of them to be above that. But you are more likely to find a home in that price range of that medium price point of $500,000 if you go a little bit further away from the city. And by the way, if you're thinking this all sounds great right now and maybe you want to dive a little bit deeper into your situation, or maybe you already live here and you're looking to move within the area, or you have a home to sell, well, my team would love to be your real estate resource of choice here in Florida. So make sure to head to the link in the description or feel free to shoot us a text or an email and we'd be happy to help you. All right, so another common question I get is HOA versus non-HOA. Where am I going to find the homes that are HOA and non-HOA? And this is one of those things that people have a love-hate relationship with HOA. And if you don't know what an HOA is, it's basically the government of your community that you live in. And a lot of you that do reach out to us are coming from older established areas in the Northeast where you don't really have HOAs. And what I can tell you is that a majority of these you're going to find out west in the suburbs, in areas like Parkland or Weston or Coral Springs. But you will find a few outliers in the cities like Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, especially if you are in a condo building. Of course, you're going to have a homeowners association, but a majority of these communities are going to be the homes that are a little bit newer. And when I say newer, I mean built in 1990 or above, and they're going to be out in the suburb. And speaking of new homes, another question that I get often is should I buy new or should I buy resale? And again, this is going to come down to personal preference, affordability, and just what area you want to live in. South Florida is very built up, it's very established, and there's not a lot of space outside the Everglades. There's some areas in Palm Beach County and like southwestern Miami-Dade County, but for the most part, everything is pretty much built up here, but you do still see some newer home communities. And when I'm talking about these newer home communities, I'm talking about master plan communities. So not like a new construction home in the middle of the city, but these big planned out communities that are basically like little towns. You know, they have the clubhouse, they have the pools, all the amenities. Some of them have schools inside, grocery stores. You don't tend to find a lot of that down here. But you still will find some like Lotus Edge, for example, in Boca. And then this one's not brand new, but a really nice one is Cascada out in Parkland, which we actually just helped some clients move into. And just to give you an idea of some of the perks that come along with new construction communities is one of the biggest ones, aside from the fact that you have a brand new house that nobody's ever lived in with brand new appliances, is you often get better rates. And this is gonna depend, it's gonna be specific from builder to builder, but a lot of them offer buy downs on the rates, especially if you go through their in-house lender. You can get a pretty good rate on a new construction home. And some of the drawbacks to new construction, and maybe this is just my personal opinion, I have heard it from some other clients too, but a lot of them do tend to be cookie cutter. I know a lot of people don't like that cookie cutter, and then a lot of people do like it. And you have to remember, it is a new community, so it can be pretty bare bones for a while, meaning like it kind of looks like you're living in the desert. The landscaping is very immature, not to mention that there can be a lot of construction going on. I mean, it did basically just start as dirt, so that's kind of just something that you have to put up with in the beginning, but eventually it'll get built up and it'll look really nice. Another draw that piques a lot of people into buying new construction is the fear of buying an older home. And that's just mainly due to, storms, storm damage over the years, or potentials for storms in the future. But just to put your mind at ease, a lot of those homes, actually a majority of these homes, are built with concrete blocks, and they're pretty much made to withstand heavy winds and damaging storms. And speaking of that, I've been getting this question a lot lately, especially this last month, is what are the storms like? What's the flooding like? How often do they come, and how bad does it get in terms of, wind and flooding? Aside from these two most recent major storms, we've been pretty blessed down here, at least in the 5.5 years that I've lived down here. But as you've probably seen on the news with Hurricane Helene and Milton, which just hit the west coast of Florida, it is 100% a possibility. Just because it hasn't happened in the last 5.5 years since I've been here does not mean that it's not gonna happen. And I'm not gonna be the one to say, I've been here 5 years and we haven't had a hurricane, so everything should be fine. No, we live in hurricane territory, and between the months of June and November, anything could happen. In addition to that, we do have some freak storms that happen every now and then, like the one that happened back in, I wanna say 2023. I think it was just last year. It was in April. And Fort Lauderdale got hit the hardest. We got about 25 inches of rain in 24 hours. The airport was flooded. It kind of came very unexpected because storms like that typically don't happen where it's just pounding rain for an entire day at a time. But that happened. And then we had another one just this past June where I think we got like 12 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And the thing is down here is that it really doesn't take a lot of rain to collect in the streets and in people's front yards. One thing I have to say is Florida is very flat. The drainage here is not that good, so it does flood pretty easily out in the roads. A simple rainstorm can cause flooding. That's not to say that your house is gonna flood, but it just comes with the territory. And we do live in a tropical climate. We get a lot of tropical bands. So this is just something to consider when you're making your move down here, especially if, one of your dreams is to live on the water. It's just something to think about. Flood insurance is a thing, and you just gotta think about it. Okay, so let's talk about jobs. I get asked about jobs pretty often as well. And some of you may be coming down here transferring jobs from your previous company, which is great, but some of you may be coming down here to start a brand new life and you need to find a job. Now, one thing I'll never recommend is that you come down here without a job lined up or at least a plan. I get it that there are some circumstances where people may have savings and they have like a little nest egg to where they can buy themselves some time, but I'm always gonna tell you, do not come down here without a job or at least a plan. But Florida has seen a lot of growth, especially over the last 4 to 5 years, with a lot of small and large companies relocating their headquarters down here. And if all else fails, being that we are in a heavily touristy area, we thrive off the tourism and hospitality industry, whether it's our 3 cruise ports, 3 international airports, or the tons of hotels, restaurants, nightclubs, bars, and stuff like that. Basically what I'm saying is there's a lot of opportunity in that industry alone. In addition, the healthcare industry is huge down here with some top-ranked hospitals like the Cleveland Clinic, Jackson Memorial, Holy Cross in Fort Lauderdale, and then of course there's tech and finance. And these got really popular during 2020 as well when everybody was moving down here. And you'll notice a lot of tech companies and finance companies, a lot of them have relocated their headquarters to West Palm Beach and in Miami, especially Miami. Brickell is known as the Wall Street of the South now. And fun fact, even though Brickell is overrated by a lot of people, or at least a lot of people feel that way, it was actually just ranked as the top neighborhood in all of South Florida. But okay, we can't forget about the kids or the young adults, so let's talk about schools. Now, this is a tricky one because I am a licensed realtor and I am legally not allowed to tell you if a school is good or is bad. But what I can tell you is that there's a ton of highly rated public and private schools throughout the entire metro area, and each one may have different benefits depending on what it is you want your kids to excel in. Now, what I can do is I can always point you to greatschools.org and have you look at the ratings on that website, read some of the reviews, see what other parents have to say, or even other people who have actually gone to the schools themselves. And then as far as college goes, there's plenty of options for college down here. We have the University of Miami and FIU, Florida International University, which is also in Miami. We have FAU, which is Florida Atlantic University, which is in Boca, along with some smaller schools like Nova Southeastern University and Broward College. And actually, this story just came out a few days ago, but Vanderbilt is planning to open up a campus in West Palm Beach. So if you don't know, Vanderbilt is one of the top universities in the country. And then on top of all that, there's actually an area out in Davie. If you don't know, Davie is a suburb just west of Fort Lauderdale, and it's called the South Florida Education Center. And it's basically just this massive area. I'm not sure exactly how big it is, but it's all schools, from colleges to charter schools, technical high schools, public high schools, middle schools, and it's just all in this generalized area, what they've coined as the South Florida Education Center. All right, so now you're here. Now the fun stuff. What is there to do in South Florida? Well, I think it goes without saying that Florida is known for its beaches and just water overall. But there really is something for everybody here, you know, when it comes down to just culture and diversity and arts and entertainment. Whether you're into fishing or partying, eating at high-end Michelin star restaurants, off-roading in the Everglades. There really is something for everybody. Not to mention the 5 professional sports teams that we have down here. Also, some professional college sports teams. And quick shameless plug, I did put together a guide called Moving to Florida, Your Survival Guide. And it kind of goes over some stuff like this, but it's just some basic information for you to read. Maybe you don't feel like watching all these videos right now. Maybe you're still kind of early in your journey. I've made it as a free download, so I'm gonna have the link to that in the description. But I hope you got value from this video, and if there's something new that you learned, let us know in the comments. And if there's something that I forgot, which I'm sure there is, let me know that too. And while you're at it, make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with all things living in or moving to South Florida. And as always, we'd love to connect with you and help you make a smooth move moving here or out of here, whichever way you're going. So make sure to reach out to us, and we'll see you on the next one.